Welcome to the BleedRedBlacks podcast.
Best fans in the league right here, baby!
With your hosts, Colin and Mike.
Susie Q.
Produced by Mark and Johnny Z. BleedRedBlacks starts now.
BleedRedBlacks.
Gabriel is open in the end zone. Touchdown! The Ottawa fans and players are going crazy.
Your number one podcast for all things Red Black.
Left, Henry still on his feet. Now the toss, and it is caught for the touchdown. Wallace Miles.
Every season,
Marco drops the pass. End zone shot. Back right corner. Caught for the touchdown. Jamal Smith.
all season.
For Burris on first down, drops the pass, pressured in the pocket, takes off himself. Down to the goal line. Touchdown, Burris.
Hello and welcome to episode 5 of the BleedRedBlacks podcast. We got a full house here today, but obviously, once again, I'm joined by the one and only season ticket holder Mike, coming straight from the office, looking baller.
Looking baller, eh? You like that? Full Moore suit tonight.
Yeah.
Feeling good. It was 2 for 1, usual.
Could be the first time in the studio anyone has ever had their shirt tucked in.
Not bad, I know.
It's pretty awesome.
Or
and
wore
all,
a sport coat when he came downstairs, too.
and all buttons are intact.
I know.
Not even a Care Bear stare.
And I'm sandwiched here between
we got
the two producers.
Yeah,
Fire away.
So stage left as we
Podcast left.
We got producer Mark, and stage right we got producer Johnny Z.
Hola.
What up? So we got all creative minds under one.
It's basically
roof.
Full House without Bob Saget.
It's pretty much like a Dave Coulier list.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, I'll go with that. I was going to say, you're right. A lot of creative minds here. It just took us like 45 minutes to get started.
to say hello.
To say hello.
And you say Dave Coulier in the back of my mind, I'm just hearing terrible Rocky and Bullwinkle impressions. It's like, no wonder dude had a short career. Like, does anyone even know who Rocky and Bullwinkle are anymore?
You're using the word career? Good for you.
Watch me pull a rabbit out of my hat.
All right.
So FIFA Women's World Cup continues in Ottawa. More good crowds, more fun times. I think the games are a little tighter.
A little bit, yeah.
And the no ins and outs policy continues to upset fans. But I mean, it should really come to no surprise. Like, this isn't the Russell Fair here, you know? Like, come on. This is an international sporting event, and they've made it quite clear that there's no ins and outs. I'll be going to the game on Wednesday.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Johnny.
Yeah, I was at one of the games on with Germany, Norway, and Thailand and Ivory Coast. It was a really insane one.
Yeah, so how was, like, describe your experience there? Like, is it a good part, like, compared to a Red Blacks game, I guess?
Obviously it doesn't compare to a Red Blacks game, but it was awesome seeing a soccer game at Lansdowne being viewed from a higher view, because like at the Fury games they only have the lower part of the south side stands, and the Germany-Norway one was obviously the headliner of the day, and it was a solid one. Beautiful goals, and then the Thailand and Ivory Coast one, like, you know, they're obviously the underdogs,
a lower
of the
tier,
tier, and it was just back and forth. It was incredible. 3-2.
Thailand won, right? And that was their
Thailand.
first victory at that level or something. So that's amazing.
I actually predicted that score. I said 3-2 Thailand. My friends were thinking I was crazy.
How much money did you put down on it?
Oh, nothing.
Well, I don't believe you then.
It's not a D. Not a true D-gen. We'll work on him.
It's like when I watch Jeopardy, and as soon as the answer comes up, I'm like, obviously I knew that. I just didn't get a chance to like verbalize it, right? Like in my head, it was there.
Yep.
So I'll be going to the game Wednesday.
Good.
And obviously I'll have a pocket full of black pepper cashews from Shiraz.
Gotta love my Shiraz.
My favorite Iranian nut supplier. Yeah, it's amazing. So the Jays have now won 11 in a row. So they're going for dirty number 12 in New York tonight.
I'm watching again.
And that's all it took, eh?
Yeah.
You're like, franchise record? Yeah,
I'll tune in again.
Yeah. But Burley's pitching tonight, so the game will be over by the time we get home.
Yeah. I like that speed he has.
Yeah, and like what a fun team to watch when they're winning, right? I guess that could be said for any sports team.
From Toronto.
But yeah, keeping it going, and I love watching the bats come alive and Yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting as the first time I saw Cecil Fielder steal a
sure.
base.
And they really put the pressure on in Boston with their ex-manager, who it looks like he's sweating bullets and could get
I love it. And he looks rough, and I'll never forget when he left the Jays, and he was quoted as saying, "I'm leaving for my dream job."
Yep.
So judging by the amount of gray hairs he's sprouting, like, I don't know. I guess he's been working with you lately or something, producer Mark.
Living the dream.
But he's looking rough, and I love it. I mean,
Yep.
to put down our team like that,
But
that's just not cool.
The AL East is going to be a fun.
Like, he's no Cito Gaston. Like, just give it up, right?
Yep.
Are you trying to say I look rough? Is that what you're trying to say?
Now, let's get back to that. I mean, forget about the Jays. He just called Mark out with his gray hair. It's like, come on.
No, I said you look like a professional baseball manager. I thought that was a compliment.
I don't even know what one of those looks like.
Basically,
apparently you.
Yeah.
just
A guy
picture-
that worked in his basement all day as opposed to going to the office.
No, picture your grandpa wearing your high school baseball uniform, basically.
Sweet.
So you were at Westfest this weekend. I know you were talking about.
But
it.
I didn't know what was going on.
So you just rolled
So
down.
I'm like, nice peaceful trip to Westboro on a Saturday afternoon. And wow, what a rude awakening. Like, it should obviously be named like Oversized Stroller Fest.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't believe it. Like,
Yeah.
I couldn't move. Like,
How many three-wheeled strollers did you see?
three-wheelers. That's
like I got at least 5 shin blasters just from people running into me. That's how
With
many.
their 15-inch tires on the back of their strollers?
and
That's-
the first one would just be the nanny carrying like supplies for the family. You know, like
That's,
just,
that's part of playing Westboro Bingo, right? Have you ever played Westboro Bingo?
No, I have never played Westboro Bingo.
Actually, there's a blog out there somewhere you can
Yeah.
find it. It's a true story. How do you know in Ottawa when somebody lives in Westboro? How do you know?
they bring their kid to Blues Fest and put headphones on them.
That too, but don't worry, they'll tell you.
I was
I
gonna
live
say
in
that
Westboro.
their strollers got more brakes than my BMX bike did in the 90s.
And then there's the new breed, right? Oh, sweet, you live in Mechanicsville. No, my friend, I live in Wellington, whatever
Wellington
the hell.
West.
Yeah.
Hey, you're getting close.
Hintonburg.
I'm getting close to my neighborhood there, boys. Easy.
Hey,
Janine and I might put up our dukes here. Okay.
that'd be a good tussle. I think she'd take it.
Absolutely. She's closer to the. Never mind. I was gonna
can
say
blame
she's
it on-
closer to Mechanicsville than I am.
It's all that outdoor training in the western winds, right?
Yeah.
It's that core strength. It's ridiculous. Yeah, so I guess Westfest went well. I was just down there to get a lunch with a buddy. Yeah, so 4 local stages. Supposedly 100,000 people were expected to go. And there's probably 2-1 to ratio attendance versus Lululemon pants. So
Yeah,
not your
big time.
typical concert crowd. But Sarah Harmer played, so that's cool.
Okay.
Right?
Craig
Yeah.
Cardiff too.
Pardon me?
Craig Cardiff.
Okay.
Yeah, good Ottawa local artist. A lot of good folk.
Awesome.
Resides in Arnprior.
We're talking about things down the line now. I didn't know. We're talking.
We've run out of bands to feature from the Ottawa area, so we're moving down the valley. Up next is the hometown hero from Cobden, Ontario.
Welcome to the Highway 417 Twinning Podcast. So the Blackhawks are up 3-2, and it's weird, right? Like, everyone seems to like write this team off at different points during the year. They had some brutal injuries, and yeah, I don't know. I guess they just keep on.
They're chugging along.
Keep on
They'll
chugging
be the
along, yeah.
team of they'll be the team of this decade that people will talk about, I'm sure. So good for them.
Yeah, for sure, and
Good for Chicago.
yeah, I mean they're doing it with a goaltender who's kind of shaky at times. He had a big game last game, but I just love seeing these tight games.
It's been good hockey.
Mm-hmm.
It's been exciting.
And also great to see former son Antoine Vermette getting his 3rd game-winning goal. And Mr. Bishop, he's got
That was
AK.
an interesting blunder, on that goal he had. It
Yeah, I
was,
still don't think they'd be there if it wasn't for him.
Yeah,
So
he's
so,
been-
so good on the big man. He's fighting. He's playing hurt, and I would like to see a Game 7. And I don't know why I have a soft spot for Steven Stamkos. I don't know why, because remember that huge bet I lost last year
Yes.
when I bet someone that he'd make it to the Olympics or something?
Yes.
And with he still had a cast on his leg,
And it
so I'm
didn't-
still bitter about that.
you're bitter that he couldn't walk,
Oh,
basically.
I don't mind lighting $100 on fire, but I was that bad. I would have just given it to him the day I shook his hand.
So you're like a regular at the Champions games, right? Like, what are you doing? Are you just like, are you a season ticket holder there yet, or is there something you haven't told me? Or
No, I just like supporting my local teams, and I
Good.
mean, now that the Beast of the East, Yum
Yeah.
Yum Chips, are present, like, do I really have a choice? You kidding me?
that was classic. We talk about a lot of things on this podcast, but social media wise, it blew up with the fact that we talked about like potato chips for like a whole segment last week.
Yeah, people, we're really trying to target our demographics just likes and dislikes, and obviously second-tiered potato chips are something they care about.
Inquiring minds want to know what our flavor of potato chips
When we start
is, right?
selling advertising
So
space, we're going to know that the Yum Yum people are going to want to talk to us.
So I tweeted out a photo of the are they still in? I thought they're just selling old product that they made 20 years ago.
Could be.
I mean, judging by the graphic on the front of those chip bags, it's not exactly PC.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Yeah. So I tweeted a photo out of the concession stand that was selling, our awesome Kitchissippi microbrew and supported with Yum Yum snackage.
Nice.
And right away, Richie was like, "Got to go with the Cell and Vinegar, man. Don't even mess around with anything else." So
yeah.
Richie busted at that bomb.
Miss Vicky's,
And
for the win.
obviously our friend to the east, Montreal boy Cliffy D, he's probably got a soft spot for his Yum Yums too, so he gave us a little star.
Yeah,
action, so that was cool.
Yum Yum. He's going to see that at the Couche Tard a lot in Montreal, I'm sure.
I mean,
at the Couch Dad.
we literally were just talking about that before you got here, and I had never heard that term before.
Yeah, I did the big tour of Montreal with some family up from the States yesterday, and that was an adventure.
Yeah.
And they used the word Couch Tard.
It wasn't quite that word, but we're not going to say it on the air. Let's just put it that
Oh,
way.
okay. All right.
There were definitely...
You don't mess with Texas.
There you go. So Rich came back with saying, obviously, Mrs. Vicky's are better. Thanks for sharing. I mean, not one of us doubts the effectiveness of the classic kettle style, right? We know that's amazing.
We're still talking about chips.
But if Richie wants to go there, I call his Mrs. Vicky's and I raise him old grandma's. Anybody? Old grandma's jalapenos?
Miss Vicky's is an Ontario invention, eh?
Okay.
Well,
there was a thing on CBC the other day about it. It's a local farmer.
We're really, moving the chip dial here. Jesus.
We haven't touched the Zesty Morden all over. But.
So I guess moving forward, the new Chips with Mark will be the new segment, right?
Yeah.
So it'll
do
be
a review of our favorite potato chips.
The hostess guys. Whatever happened to them, right?
Crisp RedBlacks.
Moving right along.
Please.
So I know we haven't done this in a long time, but I owed this to Santino.
Yes.
So our errors and omissions, we used to openly admit to our mistakes. But then the intro got really long, and we would have to do an intro to the intro. Anyways, so I just want to say, Santino, you can find him, our contributor, at RedBlackGade on Twitter. And the website I was referencing last week is 3downnation.com. That's where you can find all of his stuff, his blogs, and tons of other CFL-based content, a lot derived from our podcast, Family and Brothers. So. Yep. Definitely go to 3downnation.com and check that out. Yeah, absolutely. It seems to be the place to go. And after reading a few people's articles, it seems like other reporters are using it for a source as well.
Yes, we won't get into that on the show.
So Cavs versus Warriors. Step 1, cut a hole in a box. Step 2, get a camera in LeBron's huddle. Right. But yeah, what a final! Even if you're not a basketball fan, this is an awesome series, and the individual effort that LeBron's putting up right now is basically right up there with the greats of all time, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, and Michael Jordan. And I really hate saying he's I put Michael Jordan on a pedestal, and I always will. He was a guy in my generation that I watched.
Space Jam, you can't beat that. The
first I ever skipped school was to stay home and watch Space Jam. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was amazing. Yeah. I skipped some enrichment course to watch Space Jam. Kind of sums up. I probably shouldn't have been at the enrichment course in the first place.
Pretty sure at a family reunion, I watched it on VHS maybe too many times. But I mememorized the song at one point.
Okay, well I'll take your word for that.
VHS, I like it.
So anyways. Yeah, I mean, the Warriors I think they're going to prove to be too deep for the Cavs, and which is disappointing because I want to see Tristan Thompson bring a ring back to Canada. But anyways, great experience for him.
Neat.
And good times. And in the Deadspin TMZ files, I mean, only a quick flash of the D would overshadow LeBron getting his head smashed in by a camera, right?
I know.
It's like the one game he flashes his D is the game he gets smashed in the head with a camera. They're like, obviously, we're not going to worry about that.
No,
right?
not going to.
So broken record, this is what I do. Montebello countdown, 48 hours. Our buddy's in town already. He's here. He's in the queue. He's ready to go. And my workload's winding down. Weather forecast is looking awesome.
Looks pretty good, eh?
And Yeah, I just can't wait to get it going.
So on Friday, I did hip hop karaoke at the Elmdale Tavern.
Beauty.
Unbelievable.
My favorite place.
I was sick as a dog, but I made it out. We had a friend that was in town for about 72 hours in from Sudan before she heads back to work with the Red Cross. Always nice to see her, and just a lovely evening out with a bunch of people.
Awesome.
And hip hop karaoke, I can't say enough about it. You have to actually memorize the entire song. There is no screen to read the lyrics, so if you're down with OPP, you better know the whole song, right? Like,
or at least you can just go shame, 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 and then when you get to the chorus, you just hammer it out. It's like how we all sing in our car,
or just do Lose Yourself and just keep saying spaghetti over and over again. Mom, spaghetti.
We should do a Red Blacks night there. That would be amazing.
Henry keeps on spaghetti.
Or it'll be BleedRedBlacks hip hop karaoke night, but the only song available will be Ian Kimo's "I Am the Hot Stepper," and that'll obviously lead into our Hot Step.
But what a great promotion by the bar. Good for them.
Yeah, it's awesome. All-Star team. That's what we have. We roll with a bunch of all-stars here, and it's amazing. And Johnny, thanks for another amazing sounding show and segment last week. I like the old Z files, Z files.
Shout out to the music production of that intro. It goes out to Jeeps, local hip hop producer.
It's a Jeep thing you wouldn't understand. Do they do that too? No? Do they?
No, unfortunately not.
Janine and Santino continue to flex their muscles, and Mark's been doing his thing after we leave, which is awesome, and Mike and I are just blown away week after week. And I had a chat with Santino earlier this week, and he is really he's totally supportive, and is just really happy with the product that we're putting out there, and he's attaching his name to, so that's really important.
And speaking of Santino, he's up next, and what's he going to talk about? A little bit about Quebec City, not the Nordiques though. We're not going to talk about the Nordiques. We're a potential hockey team.
He's going to talk about when Eric Lindros refused to put the Nordiques jersey on. No, he's going to talk about
too soon.
Too soon. Poor Eric. I mean, what an amazing hockey player. There's a powerhouse, right? Anyways, hashtag Oshawa Generals. Quebec, they had a poor attendance at the preseason game, so Santino just kind of digs into that a little deeper and kind of explains why there were half as many people as there would be for a Rouge et Or game.
All right, let's hear that, and then we'll move. You and I and the team here will move into talking about some quarterbacks.
Let's do it. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bleed Red Blacks podcast. Check us out on Twitter at BleedRedBlacks and on Facebook at facebook.com/BleedRedBlacks podcast.
Live from Brazil, here's the Red Black Renegade rant with Santino Filoso.
Are you ready?
Do you really mean to tell me that a 5'0" wide receiver is worth $40,000 more than Chad Owens?
We'll do it live!
If the helmets weren't ready this week, they should have pushed their introduction back.
It has begun.
After Saturday's preseason contest between the Red Blacks and Alouettes, many seem ready to write off Quebec City as a potential expansion destination due to the fact that the game only drew around 5,000 fans. I think that'd be a big mistake though, as clearly, with a city that has a 13,000-seat stadium for their CIS team, which it regularly fills and sells out, it is a football market. Only, the fans there aren't stupid. From the moment the game was first announced, the Ottawa Red Blacks and Montreal Alouettes both directed fans to the same website, reservatech.net. On reservatech.net, which also happened to be the first site that popped up in Google when I searched for tickets to the game, the cheapest ticket for an adult was $88.90. Taxes in. That's insane for a preseason game. Hell, for that price, you could pick up a 3-game home opener pack from the Red Blacks. For months, Reservatech was touted as the place to get tickets. Only as kickoff approached, stories of dismal sales began to leak out. In fact, things were so bad that less than 2 weeks before the game, only slightly more than 3,500 tickets had been sold. That's when some people began to notice that on the Laval Rouge et Or site, the stadium's usual tenants, adult tickets were going for as cheap as $30. Meanwhile, at the same time, over on Reservatech, tickets were still listed at almost $90. Now, I didn't go to the game, but you'd better believe I'd be pretty pissed off if I had forked over $90 for a meaningless preseason game, only to find out that on another site, one not mentioned by the league or the two teams involved, that tickets were $60 less. Last week, when it became apparent that attendance was going to be an embarrassment embarrassment, there was a lot more online advertising about the possibility of buying tickets through Laval's site. But as we witnessed Saturday night, the damage was already done. Talking about CFL expansion is always something hypothetical, but it would be ridiculous to write off Quebec City as a potential 10th franchise down the road simply because of a poor turnout at an overpriced preseason game that the league and teams involved failed to properly market. That's all for this week, guys. Rant back at RedBlackade, and remember to bleed Red Blacks.
Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bleed Red Blacks podcast. Check us out at bleedredblacks.ca for blogs, photos, and podcast archives. Okay, so this week we're going to be looking at our quarterbacks. Last week we touched on defense a little bit, a few DBs and a linebacker who we were hoping a lot for this year. So we're going to dive into quarterbacks, but I can tell Johnny Z is chomping at the bit to say something.
Yeah, I something really tore me up last week, Colin. I was listening to it biking on the way to Britannia Beach on my iPod, and then next thing you know... Is
this going to get emotional? Should we put some Enya on in the background
it was
or
close
some Sarah
enough,
McLachlan or something? No, okay.
One of the worst crimes against humanity right now.
Okay.
Comparing my Seattle Seahawks with the dirty, stinking Cowboys.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I didn't know that you were a fan.
Yeah.
And the funny part is...
You don't know. It's all we could talk about when we were in the car a couple weeks ago.
I
don't know. That's okay.
I was there, but I was.
You were there, but you weren't.
I was thinking about something else.
I was wearing my toque at the end of the year party there at the Georgetown.
Yeah, he's a big Seahawks fan. He was rolling hard on that.
Well, I sincerely apologize.
It's okay. You're
and
forgiven.
I'm sure the guy, like, when you give a shout out to someone from Washington, and give him a shout out to his team that doesn't exist anymore, and then rips the Seahawks, it doesn't surprise me why Sonic Conspiracy wasn't. I don't think he was really too thrilled with our shout out, but
yeah,
he.
That's how you roll.
That's how I do it. Yeah, that's right.
We both formally accept your apology.
Okay, cool, man. Thanks.
So on to the Red Blacks, which is the focus of the quarterback.
Of course, we're getting off topic here. Sorry, guys.
No, it's okay.
So that's our bread and butter. I promise I won't talk about chips for at least 20 minutes.
Henry Burris, the starter. Let's talk about the Hall of Fame man. Quote, the close out a legacy year here in Ottawa. I think it's going to happen. I think he's going to close out his legacy here.
Yeah.
He's a quarterback. It's his job to lose. We know that already. Let's get it out right away, straight up. This guy knows how to start games. He's dressed in 240 CFL games. That's since 2006. He's been on the field in 18 games a season at least, leaving only 2007 when he dressed for 15 games.
And, I mean, Hank just turned 40.
Yep.
And it was funny, the RDS coverage, they must have been reusing their notes from last year, because at the start of the game, I watched it just for a few minutes at my parents' place, and they were like, in his first year with the Red Blacks, 39-year-old Henry Burris. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Just because Bleed Red Blacks can use old notes from last year doesn't mean RDS should be doing that, right? Like,
yep. Well, he was 39 last year.
Well, he just turned 40. That's when I straight up knew. Okay, because they said he just turned 39 his first year with the Red Blacks. I'm like, sweet notes, bro.
Yeah.
RDS, you blew it.
Yeah.
He came off his worst rating last year, right? What was that rating? It was
just under 80, 78.7. But he put up quite a few, like, yardage wise. He put her up there, but the rating tells the tale, right?
Rating tells the bouncing and skipping balls and overthrown and miscues on the passing route. So
yeah.
And in all fairness to Hank, it was obviously a mixed bit of blame last year.
Absolutely.
Not just him. I mean, there was obviously the receivers, the drop balls, and I don't want to drop those two words there because we haven't even had our first season game and I'm already dropping that.
Yeah. Well, and then he had it came out this week that Matt Dunnigan wrote a story on TSN.ca previewing the Red Blacks team, and he said that the OC last year didn't communicate with the quarterbacks last year.
Yeah, I read that.
There was no relationship there, and that, like, I mean, we don't need to talk about that guy anymore. But I'm glad that OC.
Don't even bring his name up.
No, I don't remember what it is anymore. The former OC.
Guitars bring a name in, but I'm not going to bring it up.
Okay.
Henry, the ball handler, he had a little issue last year. He has issues, obviously, with interceptions all around. But with 55,000 yards, it's going to happen. I mean, the guy's going to throw a lot. I think he's throwing the ball a ton, so he's going to run into that. Career-wise, he ends up with 335 TDs to 205 ENTs, but I'm not going to worry. I'm not. Who's going to worry about that? The telltale sign will be this year. I think we're going to look at how the field opens up in front of him, and the story will be told about, this year, what the new rules are going to allow for, and will it open up the field for Henry, a veteran that's going to see the field kind of like in a new way for the first time. So
I think it's really like the sum of all of these changes, like not only the rules, but the fact that he might have an extra quarter second being protected on the left side with the guys we got, good coaching, better players. I think every little bit adds up.
And we'll talk about it in a few minutes, but that offensive line looked pretty good this week. Not excellent, but it looked a lot better than it has in the past.
Kind of eh.
But what I like, and I think with 517 attempts last year by Henry to put the ball in play, I think that was like a career low for him. Mm-hmm. And when you look at attempts throughout his career, he's a 560 to 600. And under that new offensive coordinator, under the new offensive line, I want to see just a quick look at those numbers. I think if he starts 15 games this year, if Burris starts all 15, look for him to be throwing around 5 or 6 more passes a game. I think that opens it up for us a little bit more. 5 or 6 passes more a game and 15 starts. Doesn't sound like a lot, but that could be 4 or 5 more first downs, right? A game than we had last year.
Yeah, so. Well, we did not have a lot of sustained drives, and there were so many 2-and-outs that it's no doubt that there was a podcast started with that name.
A lot of buzzkills last year.
Absolutely.
Momentum. And
absolutely. But, it's the intangibles that Henry brings, and as you put it, the gel man, right?
Yeah.
And
who's he going to gel with this year? That's the question. We were talking about that early on, but who's the guy?
I don't know. I think it's so easy. It's so easy to say, his experience from Hamilton, Ellingson should be his target. But I don't know. You never know. I think things just kind of click, and sometimes they don't. And just because they did well in 12 or 13 in Hamilton together, I don't really know if that means anything.
Last year it was Henry squared. We saw a lot of that.
That's
last
right.
year.
And I'm expecting big things from him again this year. Right.
And the targets this year, absolutely, they're everywhere. I like Henry the Thinker. This is one I really like. Mm-hmm. This week he made no questions about how he feels regarding the CIS Canadian QB and how that should be handled in the CFL. He went out and has said right away, this is a league that should pass a motion to have the 4th QB spot dedicated to Canadian talent only. And this quote I'm going to read next, this sounds like it's from a future ambassador of the CFL and possibly a leader not only in this community but on any team that he decides to go to afterwards. Mm-hmm. He said, quote, "The barriers need to be broken at some point to give Canadian quarterbacks an opportunity to play. There's far and away enough talented quarterbacks in this country that should be given a chance in training camps as well as on rosters in the regular season," end quote. That's from a Wayne Scanlon article this week in the Ottawa Cit. Mm-hmm. Henry, and again, we're going to talk about whether he's going to start all 18 games, or he's going to start 15 or 12 or 10, or if DeMarco's going to step up. We're going to get into that. We don't know. We're in preseason, right? But when I talk about Henry Burris, the leader, these are the moments that he has with this club already that shows you he's taking young men under his wing and showing them how to behave, not only in front of media, but in front of teammates. Mm-hmm. And moving forward, that was the best move this team could have did with having a couple of young quarterbacks like DeMarco and O'Brien underneath them. So good on Henry.
And he did create stability at the position last year, regardless of, at least knew who was playing every week, and that's huge, right?
That is absolutely for receivers. They need that, and without an offensive coordinator last year, that's all that really kept them together.
And he took the heat. He took the heat. He'd be the guy at the mic if you needed him there, and there's the gel guy, as you say, right?
How many times did we say last year during the regular season, he stood up there in front of the microphone, in front of cameras flashing, saying, it's on my shoulders. I feel bad about tonight's game. We got to do better. I think this year that message coming from him, it might be a little bit different. It might be, hey, we got through this win, just build on the next one. He knows what to say.
Yeah.
And he's been doing it for a long time. So I'm going to put my bet down now that he'll start probably more than 10 games this year, and look for him to stick around this city afterwards. I really hope he does and works with the team in the future. That's my personal – I'm a big Henry Burris fan. So.
It's just I don't know. It's almost like the age or I'm sure obviously he's over the peak of his career, on the back end.
Yep.
But all those intangibles are huge, man, and it's like makes me proud to be represented by a guy like that in front of the mic after a loss. Like, don't put a mic in front of me after those losses. You know what I mean? Like, it's just nice to know that you're going to be represented by a man that has some tact and always knows what to say, as opposed to someone who, loses their temper and says something silly or
shows
people
you
don't forget that stuff.
And the management set the bar high for these guys, right? Mm-hmm. That's Henry is the bar for that type of player. So good on Henry. Good on management.
True meaning of determination. Puts the team on his back.
I like it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Danny O'Brien, what do you think? I made a note that if he had a good outing, that we'd all sing Danny Boy this week. But the outing,
Danny Boy.
oh Danny Boy, but we're not. We're not going to. We're going to save our listeners that god awful sound because he didn't have a great outing this week. But we'll talk about Danny O'Brien.
Okay, so moving forward, when he has his game, we'll sing the song. Is that like
We shall.
Yeah,
we shall sing it.
Is that something that will promote people to listen to the show or deter people to listen?
Probably
to the
deter.
show?
So we should.
But whatever, you win some, you lose some. So I like this guy. I really like to see. I like the growth we've seen in this guy.
You said it last year. He seemed to be when he'd get to the line last year. He seemed so composed.
And so chill. Yeah.
Even though he was coming into a war zone of an offensive line that couldn't contain. I don't know what it was. They just were bad.
Yeah. And he had a great his first appearance in Hamilton. The first game was awesome.
Preseason this year.
Yeah, he played really well, and limited role, didn't do too much in Montreal, but I like this guy, and I really want to see him. I want to see him around. It's really important to me, and I think that he's a really steady, level-headed backup.
I think he was probably like one of the best players actually in that Hamilton game. Like if there was definitely a standout performance, he was definitely one of the ones who really caught my attention.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, I didn't catch much of the Montreal one, but it seemed like the stats were decent.
So two for 6, 21 yards.
Never mind. I didn't.
Yeah. So I mean, maybe he is that dark horse, but I like him, and I'm not sure. We're going to talk about DeMarco here shortly, but
we got time for a 24-year-old to develop his arm, though.
Absolutely.
And this guy comes from a pedigree. I was doing research on him again, but he comes. You look at his pedigree from college. So 2011 he was in Maryland. 2012 he was in Wisconsin. Okay, he ends up in Catawba College in 2013. So he moved around a little bit in his collegiate career. Looking at the program he was part of in 2012 as a Badger in Wisconsin, it was such a great program. He made basically 7 appearances behind Joel Stave. And if you follow the Badgers and the career of Stave, this Stave kid has done nothing but improve since that time. So basically, O'Brien ended up, and we'll see Stave this year, depending on his work ethic this year. We'll see where he ranks when he gets drafted. But the point is O'Brien just ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time in Wisconsin because some kid just took over as a freshman and took the program under his wing. So
well, good on him to go to a smaller school and that South Atlantic Conference school.
Yeah.
And just go and make something out of it. So it'd be so easy just to hang your head and resign to being a backup. But I really
he finished in that SAC division with a 135.5 quarterback rating. So nothing to sneeze at,
Absolutely. So. Yeah, he is a grinder, and you and I talk about this all the time. We love the guys that take the hard road here.
Yeah.
The Arena League guys, the D3 guys.
Yeah.
Just those grinders. Like, we're grinders. Yeah. That's what we do. We grind life, right?
We grind this podcast out every week.
We do well in life because we actually, try.
That's right.
So I love when I see people with the same kind of work ethic, and, it just says a lot about them, yeah.
Grinders truly know how to properly giver.
There you
the
go.
giver and the grinding go together.
Yeah. Okay, so Thomas DeMarco, and let me tell you, I wrote Chris. I just want to call him Chris DeMarco.
Chris
I just
DeMarco.
Want to, and going back to episode 2 or 3.
I think when you and I called him Chris DeMarco 7 times.
And then that's okay. I think that's how Janine came on the show because she was like, "Dudes, his name's Thomas." And we're like, "Oh, you know about the CFL? You want to do a segment?
You want to do the show for us?
And
That'd
the
be
rest
great.
is history."
I keep getting him mixed up with Mac DeMarco every time.
Yeah.
Indie artist.
There you go.
Yeah, Mac DeMarco, quarterback for the RedBlacks. Wait, no, he makes music.
And talk about versatile, yeah. Anyway, so Mr. DeMarco, big 200-pounder, and we noticed that this guy's jacked. We talked about it last week, but this guy's all shoulders.
We saw him. I was like, "Which DL is that?" And you're like, "No, it's DeMarco." And I'm like, "Come on, man."
It's like when you go to the gym and you're done doing shrugs, then what do you do? Like that's his daily thing. Like
also skateboards too.
And curls for girls too. Like man, from the top row, we can see those things. So his season ended early last year due to an ACL injury. But yeah, like I said, he looked huge and ripped coming into camp this year, and with Smiling Hank nearing the end of his career, it could be the time for him to step it up. And obviously, him and Danny can kind of push each other, but DeMarco's still a young guy too, right?
Yep.
And so some people on social media are actually doubting him his ability to recover from this knee injury.
Ridiculous.
ACL injury. And that was caused by a low hit last year by Calgary Stampeders' Junior Turner. If you are listening, Junior, no more of those hits, okay, boy?
Yeah, we're coming out for you, Turner. We're going to break your caps.
He had a good surgeon. You had done this research and found out he had a
he had a really good surgeon.
Top-notch surgeon.
Yeah, and the guy from the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center said that you put the graft in the right spot using the athlete's own tissue, and then you return them cautiously with correct rehab. Those are the 3 keys to successful ACL surgery / rehab. And just some NFL numbers here. I couldn't find any CFL numbers. In 2010, 31 of 49, or 63% of NFL players returned to play within just shy of 11 months. So
after this procedure.
This procedure.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I'm not sure of the severity of his, but it sounds like if you do it right, you can usually come back from it.
Yeah, it's a big talk on NFL radio when I'm listening, when I start listening in another month, because it's going to get closer to that time of year. But definitely a lot of ACL talk, because it's a very common injury amongst NFL players. And now it seems, as you just pointed out with that great research, it's these guys are doing the surgery in an afternoon, right?
Yeah.
And it's a big science now.
So DeMarco, he's still a young guy. Like I said, this would be his 4th season in the league. Obviously, last year he didn't play too much. He began his career at the college in Palm Desert, California, before transferring to Old Dominion in Virginia. So had a pretty awesome university career. And one thing we like referencing, because we saw him do it last year on the awesome super touchdown that we got. He was a punter in high school, and also played 3 years of high school baseball. So he's got an interesting skill set and obviously an athletic dude.
Maybe he'll end up on the Champions for a playoff run. You know what I mean? Little fall baseball.
Maybe,
he might be around.
He should have at least played $1 hot dog there last week. It was
little Bo Jackson action right there.
So last Thursday was $1 hot dog day at the Champs game. Yeah. I swear at the national anthem, I always look around because that's the easiest time to judge someone. Is how are they acting during the anthem, right? And that's just what I do. I just love reading people. And I had to kind of throw it out the window that night because half the stands were just plowing hot dogs, like mid, like, stand on guard for
hot dogs, chips.
Yeah.
What a podcast.
Yeah. If he plays for the Champions, he could be like the Russell Wilson of the CFL, playing for baseball and football.
Nice Russell Wilson reference. Never heard of him.
Yeah, who's that guy?
Well, with his salary, it's pretty much comparable to what the Champions guys are making, aren't they? Okay,
Brock.
so yeah, Mr. Jensen. So obvious depth move, quarterback. Practice squad guy from the Dolphins who we got brought in here. And to be honest, I don't know a lot about the guy.
No, we talked about him earlier on in our signings episode, and
and
not a lot to talk about, not a lot to know about him yet. So.
No, and if you listen closely, I'm sure a lot of what we're saying about him right now may sound familiar to that last episode.
But yeah, exactly. But with Brock, I had mentioned that he has mobility, so that was something interesting, and we saw it in that quick start he had in Montreal, that he's able to get out of a tackle and make some moves. So.
I'm just wondering, how many quarterbacks do they carry, right?
Right.
And if there is a spot to have that 4th guy lurking when we have, which you'll talk about here shortly, Brad Sinopoli, another possible, maybe not so possible quarterback option. But
some social media
with an asterisk,
experts believe that he'll be starting by week 6. So,
I mean, he's a big boy, 6'4", 215, local guy, but I don't know. I just don't see that. And he does have the advantage of the Canadian passport, but I don't look at him. I don't think he was brought in here to be a quarterback.
I don't think they're spending any time with him working that playbook whatsoever, and obviously he wasn't getting any looks during camp at throwing the ball around much. So, I think it's up for grabs. It could be something I go back to. He might be good for a trick play here and then, and maybe a flea flicker.
Yeah, I mean, I think people on Twitter think he's the next Russ Jackson. I don't really know what's going on. They're basically like, put Sinopoli in and start. He had limited success, sure.
He's gonna start at quarterback. We'll just let him return punts as well, right?
Let's
get rid of Jamil Smith.
Yeah, might as well.
It's part of the get rid of Jamil Smith group. I think that's. It's just out to get me personally.
Yeah,
it's all against me.
He just might as well play every position, right? It's good. This is the Ottawa Sinopolis. What do you think?
Ottawa Sinopolis. But it shows you to I guess wrap up the quarterbacks. it gets into that. We're gonna know probably game 4 or 5 where we stand with quarterbacks, and it's really it is Burris's job to lose, and we'll go from there.
And,
that's it.
And when you look, I mean, depth. We've been preaching this all year, and you look across the league. I think we're set for quarterbacks.
That horse race between DeMarco and O'Brien could drive one of those two guys to become the next starter for us that leads us down the path to a 9, 10,
Absolutely.
12 win season. So
I mean, in a perfect world, Henry will crush it this year, get most outstanding player, and the two guys will just learn and be ready to step in.
And Henry will just drop the Grey Cup and peace out.
Be
I
out.
win. I'm out.
He'll take
retired.
the 95 back to Orleans and just bounce.
Yeah, that'd be ideal. That'd be if I was to write the script, that's how it would look too.
Might be just a bit of a dream shot, but if we had like any luck like the Stamps did a few years ago, like having Drew Tate, then if Burris say gets injured, then you got those two guys competing. Maybe one can emerge as wishing the next Bo Levi Mitchell.
You never know.
We talked about Bo Levi last year, and it was it's a great story.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
And
except when he chirped me in Vancouver and wouldn't let me on the elevator, but we forgot to talk about that during the Grey Cup episode.
Yeah.
But he basically told me to get out of the elevator, and I respected that request.
Yeah.
Anyways.
He's a big lad. So that's good. So that's a good quarterback segment for this week. And
he got one more freckle when he told me to get out of the elevator, though. So.
Okay. All right.
Okay, so we're going to roll into a little Janine around the CFL. And this week she's talking about the West.
Yes.
Let's do it. Yeah.
Hey guys, for Instagram photos, check us out at BleedRedBlacks. For game day photos, tailgate photos, and photos of whatever, come check us out at BleedRedBlacks.
Dude, isn't she a Bombers fan?
Let me laugh even harder.
But for the love of God, please start hook sliding.
Dude, whatever. She's an Ottawa fan too.
Did Buck Pierce's constant injuries not teach you guys anything?
Playoffs? I just hope we can win a game.
Enough ranting, on to the games.
Really? Righteous. Welcome to Around the CFL with Jin on the Bleed Red Blacks podcast.
Last week, I talked about what I'd be keeping an eye on in the East this season. It's the West's turn, starting with the defending Grey Cup champions, the Calgary Stampeders. Football pundits are already predicting that the Stamps will be the most powerful team in the West again this year, and they certainly have the tools they need to defend that title. Bo Levi Mitchell is one of my favorite quarterbacks to watch. 5th in the league last year in passing yards, 2nd in touchdowns scored, and with the least amount of interceptions. He had the highest QB rating at 98.3. I expect he'll just keep getting better. I'll also be watching to see if John Cornish stays healthy. There is no doubt about his skill. This guy was 1st in the league in rushing yards last season, despite missing almost half of it to injury. But those injuries were of the concussion variety. How much longer can Cornish play at this caliber without causing himself serious long-term harm? Should he even be playing at all? I won't be too surprised to see Matt Walter step out of the Calgary backfield a few more times this year. On defense, I will of course be watching for former Red Black Jasper Simmons. He led Ottawa last year in tackles and was definitely the star of our defense. But now, he is moving over to a team that has plenty of defensive talent. Will he shine as much among these hardened veterans? We'll have to wait and see. The Battle of Alberta is always a great story in the West, and last year Calgary firmly won that battle, beating Edmonton all 3 regular season meetings. But Mike Riley wasn't suited up for 2 of those games, and let's face it, that makes a difference. Riley fearlessly showed his determination last year to pick up extra yards by moving his own feet, ending up 2nd in rushing yards on the team. Having a running quarterback is always a blessing and a curse. A blessing because it's good to know you have a guy who will fight for those extra yards, and a curse because it's a great way to get injured. I doubt he'll run less, but I hope he's been working on his hook slide this offseason. And I hope the addition of Danny Grew on the O-line will keep him protected long enough to get the pass off rather than the run. Speaking of running, John White, aka the Wolfman, sustained a season-ending injury in training camp and won't be in the number 1 spot this year. The Eskimos have called up Chad Simpson, who CFL fans may remember from the Winnipeg Blue Bombers. He scored 11 touchdowns over 2 seasons seasons, but left in 2013 with a foot injury and hasn't played in the CFL since. He's an athletic running back and fun to watch. As long as he's recovered, I expect him to make a difference out there. Sticking with the color green over in Saskatchewan, Rider fans are ecstatic to see Darian Durant back from injury. But just in case things don't work out so well for him, Saskatchewan signed Kevin Glenn in the offseason. Dubbed as the league's best insurance policy, Glenn will be waiting in the wings to take over at the helm should Durant falter or get hurt. Other players who have joined Watermelon Nation that I'll be watching for are Shea Emery and Nick Dembski. Emery is a powerhouse linebacker, and this will be his third team in 3 seasons, going from the Owls to Toronto to Saskatchewan. Wherever he goes, he makes things happen. Emery has 2 Grey Cup rings with Montreal, including the infamous Too Many Men on the Field 2009 game when the Riders lost to the Owls because of a penalty in the dying minutes. Perhaps Rider fans will forgive him when he starts tallying up those tackles and sacks, which he is known for in this league. Newcomer Nick Dembski will also be fun to watch. Dembski went to the Riders in the first round of the draft, the only non-O lineman to go in that round. He's an explosive receiver, and judging from his play in the Riders' first preseason game, he is already showing off his speed and agility on special teams. To be 21 again. This kid will be a lot of fun to watch this year. It's just too bad that he's in green. Over in Vancouver, the BC Lions have a new head coach in Jeff Tedford, and word is that he is working the guys hard in training camp, trying to right the inconsistencies of last season that led to a 4th place finish in the West. Perhaps he'll have some help now that Travis Lulay is back from injury, although just how much the rehab on his shoulder has helped remains to be seen. Lulay did not opt for a second shoulder surgery after re-injuring himself last year in the dying minutes of the Ottawa game, but both he and the coach say that he's feeling good and ready to play. I hope that's true, but if something happens, there is no Kevin Glenn to back him up. Jonathan Jennings is looking like an early frontrunner for second string. The Lions also let go of kicker Paul McCallum a couple of weeks ago, despite him being one of the most reliable and consistent in the league over the span of his 20 years, with the exception of that one miss in Saskatchewan, of course. Not sure if he will be picked up by any other team this year, but I'll be watching to see if he lands somewhere since he says he's not interested in retiring. Finally, with Stefan Logan moving over to Montreal, I'll be watching to see more of Andrew Harris. His season ended early with an ankle injury, and he's been working hard to get back to the field. He's a fun running back to watch, and as long as he stays healthy, I'll expect to see a lot of him. Finally, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers had such a great start to last season and such a dismal end. Their problem? The paper doll O-line that couldn't keep Drew Willie upright. That poor kid was sacked over 70 times last season, more than any other quarterback by a long shot. But the Bombers were busy in the offseason adding some depth in Dominic Picard from Saskatchewan, Stanley Bryant from Calgary, and drafting Suk Chung in the first round of the draft from the Calgary Dinos. With good protection, Willie, one of the league leaders in passing last year, should see his rating improve significantly. At least that's what I'm expecting. I'm also looking forward to watching Troy Studermeyer on special teams again this year. After some stellar performances last season, he earned the spot of number 1 returner. Unfortunately, an injury to his hand in training camp means he could miss as many as 3 games once the regular season begins. But when he is healthy, look out. And as far as receivers go, Clarence Denmark broke 1,000 yards last season. With an upright quarterback and new rules, I expect to see him break it again this year. Quick recap of the first week of preseason action. The Bombers opened with a 34-27 win over the Argos. Toronto fought back in the 4th to make it a game, but Winnipeg worked hard and held on for the win, getting some impressive performances out of both Robert Marv and Josh Portis at quarterback. The Stampeders beat the Lions 20-6 in their first game of the preseason. Jonathan Jennings had an impressive game at quarterback, but it just wasn't enough. Calgary pulled away in the 3rd and sealed it in the 4th with a pass from Dominic Davis to Greg Wilson for the major. And Edmonton met Saskatchewan in Fort McMurray for the northern kickoff. The Eskimos came from behind to win this one 31-24 with a late 4th quarter touchdown by Darrell Walker. And finally, some interesting news came out of Toronto last week. Adrian McPherson, who was long touted as the heir apparent to Anthony Calvillo in Montreal, has been signed by the Toronto Argonauts. Prior to this signing, Trevor Harris seemed to have the number 2 spot sewn up. Look to see McPherson in the Argos' next preseason outing as the battle for Ray's backup just got a little more heated. Well, that's it for this week's edition of Around the CFL. Remember to tweet us back to share your thoughts about your league at BleedRedBlacks and at Ottawa J.
Hey everybody, thanks for listening to the Bleed Red Blacks podcast. Don't be afraid to check us out on Twitter at BleedRedBlacks and jump over to Facebook, give us a comment, facebook.com/BleedRedBlacks podcast.
Turbo game recap. So I think we're just going to do literally a turbo game recap. I don't want to dig too deep into this.
Game I couldn't watch. So.
Sort of televised practice in front of a half-full stadium. As you all know, Santino filled us in on his opinion of the lack of attendance and, yeah, basically just atmosphere there. Our boys, a lot of our boys made the trip down.
What a great piece of, like, just the pictures coming in there were awesome.
Yeah.
A fog machine.
Yeah. Amazing.
A fog machine.
Like,
amazing. That's all I'm going to say.
Next time this weekend we're doing a road trip, I'll bring the fog machine just in case. So
26-9. Just get the score out of the way because it's a turbo recap.
26-9. So that'll do it for this turbo. No, I'm joking. Yeah. So okay, some good points here. I just want to say, I like our first line defense across the board. Not worried at all. Looking awesome.
Man. Marlon Smith.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Let's just start with that.
Let's start with Marlon Smith.
So last year he was around, but he didn't really get too much of a chance.
We don't know because the CFL won't tell us how many games the guy will start. You know, like I actually called Marlon, but I just got his answer machine. So
I tweeted his mom. That's how I found out.
Did you?
No.
So he replaced. I know he did replace Jeremiah Johnson last year around October, and I'm going out on a limb here, but I'll say that he started about 3 or 4 games last year. He finished that season with 11 tackles on the season, but this year he went, his first big game out. I just got to get this stat right because I don't want to do the man any injustice here. But what was his? Oh, where is it? Where is it? How many? 4 tackles and 3 sacks with a special teams tackle as well. Like he was just a monster.
MS Word.
My word. Marlon Smith word. So he really broke that brains. He broke the Baines curse because Mr. Bain had done an article about him in the Ottawa Sun about how, again, Smith was a guy that grinded his way into the CFL, studied really hard, and he's the type of guy that reads the playbook, and he's just a strong kid out of San Antonio.
Yeah.
And if he's a starter or a guy in depth, I hope he sticks around. I hope he's around for the year. And you can't say enough about a guy who breaks the Baines curse. We just need a guy to break the Colin Bambino
the curse of the Colino. Yeah.
Curse of the
Struck
Colino.
again. If you see those cuts.
I see those cuts.
I nailed it.
We're going to talk about
I
that
nailed
in a
it.
few minutes.
Yeah, so I'm really afraid to talk about this. Let's just do really quick.
Rip off the Band-Aid.
Kick returns. Oh, come on, man. Really? I don't even know. I'm just terrified. And I think I'm going to just close my eyes every time we kick off the ball and I'll have you tap me on my shoulder when
Montreal only faced our kick returns twice because we didn't generate enough offense to generate.
Sorry to return a kick when you kick it out of bounds too, right?
That's true, right? And Stephen Logan for the Montreal Alouettes hauled in one of those returns for 31 yards on us.
Ex-Pittsburgh Steeler, right? I must say, right?
Yeah. Logan.
Yeah, I knew I hated him. I'm like,
you knew you hated
Logan. Damn you, Logan.
But punt returns, punt returns against us. We had 5 returns totaling 13.6 yards per. So. That's a bit of improvement, you'd say?
I'll take that.
I'll take that in a day. So.
Absolutely. Okay, so last year I went bonkers about discipline and penalties, and that was I copied and pasted that every week, keys of the game.
Yep.
And I know it's preseason, and I know we're learning new rules, and I know the refs are just getting warmed up as well. But 21 for 146 for the Red Blacks. And 18 for 168 for the Alouettes. So we're talking cumulative 3 fields here, what a dirty game. And the 1,600 people that were there must have been just devastated by that. I don't know, it wasn't that bad, but preseason football, it's just what it is. So it is what it is.
A bit of a learning curve for everybody.
This is practice.
And they're not really using a playbook. We find out that as well. They're not using a playbook that they're going to be using this year. So a lot of it's just straight up, basic plays.
We're talking about preseason, man. Not the game. Not the season.
Preseason.
We're talking about preseason.
Kicking. Speaking of kicking things, Delbert Alvarado.
I don't even know what to do.
What are we going to do? We're back at the same discussion we had at the beginning of the season.
There's a young man from the States. His name's Brett Mayer. You guys ever heard of him?
Yeah.
No, we're not there yet, are we?
Yeah.
There's some Irish free agent guy. I think what's his name? McCallum?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Out of the 42-year-old out of
45.
45? Really? Yeah.
Ooh. Did I just make that up?
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure.
It's
Maybe
Randy
it's just
Johnson
maybe
age.
it's my dyslexia kicking in. It looked like 45. Maybe it was 42.
Maybe it's 54. That's maybe it was 54.
Maybe. Yeah.
But out of BC, right?
Yeah. So reports
Absolutely, yeah.
came today that the Red Blacks actually reached out to him and he declined. So I tweeted out right away. Well, he was just so tired after waiting to find out about the Red Blacks cuts last night. Like he wasn't able to make a decision today. A friend of you stayed up all night with me last night waiting. It was fun, and we got our.
Good on the Red Black social media for letting us know.
Yeah, great. We made the decision to wait till the next day. Well, that's cool. Like you could have let us know. As at Dusty Dre said it, we had a Twitter slumber party, so that's kind of cool.
Yep.
Right.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have to share my chips and pop with anybody either, and no one saw my
Back to
jammies.
the chips again. Back to the chips.
I think I'm hungry. Is there something in chips you'd eat if you had like a deficiency? Like
Probably.
maybe I'm lacking
Nah.
something internally and my body's crying out for something. Maybe just
Grease.
attention.
Salt.
Salt. Yeah.
So we don't know. So we go back to Alvaro. He shanked 2 punts and he missed a 38-yard field goal.
And all the kickers made it through the cuts.
So they got to go over that list one more time.
So yeah, Jake Hardy left with an injury. Drell Gavins and Capasati as well left. Hardy was actually put on the injured list. 6 game.
Yep.
So whatever injury he suffered was obviously serious. And I mean, to be honest, spending 6 weeks on the sidelines probably isn't the end of the world for a young guy like him anyway.
No.
He looked to be a little in over his head at this level right now, and for a young kid, it might be a good place for him, and especially if he's not healthy to kind of.
Just a road bump, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just a road bump.
He's just a young kid, and he's got lots of time to showcase.
We
his
thought
skills.
Gavins took a shot to the head during the game because he left like with the towel.
Yeah,
over
he
his
had
head,
a
little quiet room action. Maybe.
Apparently, he had like a Flintstone bump and some weird little.
So he had a little bit of a lump on his noggin.
So hopefully he wasn't seeing stars, or I don't know what.
And Capasati had ice on his arm.
So I'm not too worried about that one.
No.
Yeah.
And then we were talking to you and I were talking about Morris. Maurice Price was slow to get on his feet after he got lit up on a kind of one of those rising floater passes he took downfield.
What a game he had though, right? He looked pretty good. 5 catches for 60 yards. Like that's what we expect from him minimum moving forward. Yeah. So Ellingston had another brutal drop, but same thing he had in Hamilton. So hopefully he gets those out of his system. We've seen enough of that.
You got pretty banged up in this past game though, eh?
Yeah, I think it might have been a tough trip, and the old bus ride home from Quebec was brutal, man.
First round of cuts. You want to talk about the cuts?
Yeah, let's do it. So Ottawa international. So not a big surprise here. All the guys other than 2 were international players, which makes more sense because obviously with the old ratio, if you got a Canadian passport, it's a leg up on guys.
Yep.
So Chase Baker, John Stevenson, Akeem Shavers, National Guillaume Bourassa, Lanier. I want to talk to Sampson. That's my curse because he was my pick. National Anthony Barrett, Brendan Chancellor, and so they're gone. And Jake Hardy was put on the 6-game injured list. So
do you want to talk about Sampson a little bit, or what we saw in camp? Like, not that has a lot of bearing on anything, but it's something you and I discussed on the podcast without naming names.
Right.
But you and I talked about watching some of that punt coverage work that was being done during the camp, and he was one particular player that players
as Johnny headbutts the mic.
As players called him out and the coach for not running down balls and doing his full work. So
it's weird because at receiver he looked great.
Yep.
But when it was special teams time, he was definitely kind of chilling.
So I'm not sure. Maybe that was. That's all. That's what we report, what we see, and that's it. So maybe sometimes it's work ethic as well. So
who knows? So anyways, no real surprises, I don't think, with those cuts. Johnny, there was one you had mentioned.
Guillaume Bourassa.
Yeah.
I was kind of hoping to see that Laval product, really show up for us.
Yeah.
And I guess he's probably part of under my curse there. I was one who really hyped up his signing there on the Facebook page. So
okay.
I guess I'll take responsibility. Sorry, Guillaume. It's my fault.
Okay, so that's our Turbo game recap, and we got a little bit of time off now. I think we got 10 days or something until the season opener in Montreal.
And all we have is scrimmage coming up
and
between now and then.
Thursday of this week, there's an open scrimmage in Gatineau. I highly recommend anyone who's around go check it out. It's going to be an inter-squad game, and apparently the Lumberjoes are going to be there wearing their new duds for this year. So.
Yeah, and I want to point out one more thing is that it's preseason. I didn't look a lot into these 2 games other than they're just trying to get through this depth and see what they need. After the scrimmage and after this practice, I just hope they're ready, and that's about it.
And I think the verbiage really needs to change, and I think that just goes to like a young, eager, not a young football community, a very mature football community, but a community that's still very eager to see some improvement and some success. But the verbiage regarding, people today on social media were like, if the Red Blacks lose X of their first X, Coach Campbell's gone. And I'm like, really? Like, why don't you just study the depth chart, look at the roster, right? And go make a Crystal Light and chill out in the backyard. Like, I don't know. Like, I just
jumping to conclusion already. It's so unnecessary. Like, for second year, for crying out loud.
Yeah, so.
We gave Joe Pow 5 years. Almost.
Yeah, you're right. That was an experiment and a mistake. But you're right. I think Coach Campbell's got a secure job here, at least for one more season in Ottawa, regardless of what happens this year. I think you got to look for a steady, unwavering voice at head coach, and we'll go from there. And we might be having a different discussion in 9 games, but for now, I'm on the side of the fence that says, look, just wait and see what happens. I never worry about preseason, especially in the CFL. It's all about getting depth right and making sure your ratio is good and being ready for these types of injuries that we saw early on already and that can decimate a team early in a season.
I find last year that kind of catastrophic verbiage was so overused. Like, that's all. It just reminds me of last year talking about we got to get rid of this guy. We got like. And, let's just be a little more educated and let's do some homework and go down that roster list, dig around, do some research on some guys, and, you'd be surprised at
what we have for talent.
What we got. Absolutely. Okay, so...
That wraps up. Just next week, we're going to do a show on Monday after we get back from Montebello just to get the listeners ready.
Maybe Tuesday. As Mark has one winking...
Yeah, all right, so we'll deal with that.
We'll play it by ear.
Yeah, because we're going to be dealing with a game preview that particular week, won't we?
We sure will.
Yep.
The game preview.
The game preview.
Yeah, like the game preview.
So that'll be our first the game preview coming up that next week. So.
Absolutely, and I don't know if we've talked about this yet, but we're going to split the game preview out of our regular show, and that'll be coming up. I guess the day prior to the game. So our show, hopefully moving forward, will come out. Monday night, and then the game preview would come out, I guess, Thursday night, Friday morning, something like that.
Yep.
So just to kind of split it up a little bit this year and give
kind of what we got from feedback last year from our listeners.
Yeah, and give listeners just something to kind of look forward to listen to in the car or on the bus on their way to the game, something they haven't already heard early in the week. All right, so that about wraps it up for the show. We got Mr. Johnny Z here, so. What do you got up your sleeve this week, my friend?
We got a band by the name of the Narwhals.
Cool.
And right now, all members are from Ottawa, yet they're currently stationed in Halifax right now because apparently that the music scene there is just flourishing. It's a very underground, very music scene, and apparently just people out east really appreciate local music scenes because I guess being out there, you don't really get most of the big acts as most places usually get.
Absolutely.
The home of Murder Records. Sloan.
Really?
Yes. Halifax Murder Records.
Okay, cool.
And apparently they're just having an absolute blast out there. So
right on.
They've have six releases on their Bandcamp page, narwhals.bandcamp.com. I'm pretty sure I got that right. No.
Poor guy.
They've got six releases on Bandcamp, most of them being singles and EPs, and their last 2 releases have been full-length albums, so 7-9 songs for each, which is still pretty good for a local band to get to muster that out. And a lot of their stuff is very, I really don't know how to describe it. It's an indie rock band, but yet there's just this weird sort of maritime sailor feel to it. I don't know how to actually describe it, but
well, I guess there's only one way to find out, right?
That's true. And a lot of their songs are about like mermaids and just weird stuff like dolphins. And
you said mermaids?
Yeah, well, mermans.
Goth mermaids. That's my thing.
Oh.
How do they keep their makeup on underwater? It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyways, sorry.
So good. So we look forward to that. I can't wait to hear that.
Yeah, man.
And this song is off their recently released full-length album. It's called Dolphin Boy.
Awesome. All right, guys. See you next week.
Cheers.
Adios.
Here at Bleed Red Blacks, we love our football, but we also love the music our great city has to offer. It's the Bytown Beats local music spotlight segment on the Bleed Red Blacks podcast. Today's featured artist, Narwhals.
right to me, but you better beware. I'm a freak in the sheets and I wanna get down underneath the cold caves where we'll never be found. Be a party all the time with you and me entwined in a graceful embrace. We'll get along just fine. As husband and boy, we're the Helen of Troy. My heart is my Achilles, keep it there with the boy.
Thank you for listening to this week's installment of the Bleed Red Blacks podcast. All musical content used in this podcast is all local Ottawa talent. If you are a local artist wanting to get your material heard on Bleed Red Blacks, send us a message on our Facebook group. Tune in next time, and remember to bleed red black.